Welcome to the Right Michigan Awards ceremony. I'm Randy Goebel, the Director of Engagement with Kent District Library, and we're here today to celebrate our 9th year of the Right Michigan Short Story Competition. So why do we do this? Well, we do this because we feel libraries and bookstores have a really important role in promoting writing as an art form. And why is that? Because, well, writing is such an important thing, so integral to so many things, from young people learning through to just expression, of course, expression. And that's what we're here to celebrate today. So this morning, as my wife and I were walking through the trails at Peace Park, we were just thinking, just kind of enjoying that this is a wonderful spring day. And that was occurring to me about how, the energy and the sap's coming up through the trees. I saw my first snake last week, and things are really popping, just like these stories. We have just a ton of stories, and they're popping up in the anthology. More about that. But first, we're live streaming today after needing to cancel last year's event. We were like this close to doing the live event, and of course we had to dial things back, but we're grateful to be back here today online, and we're going to be celebrating both years of winners, last year's winners and this year's winners. And I want to thank everybody, particularly the winners and their families, for coming here today. Author Peter Hoe Davies wrote the foreword to the 2020 anthology, right here, this one. And he'll be speaking today along with Susie Finkbiner, who was our keynote speaker and wrote the foreword to this year's anthology. For those of you who are watching but haven't been part of Right Michigan, this is what it's about. As I mentioned, it started 9 years ago as an idea to help celebrate authors of all ages throughout Michigan. And 3 years ago, we also added a Spanish language category, which has been a really exciting addition to add, because we want to make sure every form of expression and cultures are part of the celebration. It's grown to nearly 1,000 entries from across the state, and winners are awarded cash prizes and published in the anthology. You can learn more about that at rightmichigan.org. We wish to recognize many people who have made this possible. Many hands make light work, and those hands come from Kent District Library, Schuler Books, Meyer, and Hancock School Public Library. The Right Michigan Anthology is published by Schuler Books on Chapbook Press. You can purchase copies of the anthology at schulerbooks.com or visit either of Schuler's locations. So here's a quick look at how the anthology is created each year. Wow, it was great to see that 2013 on the poster at the end of that. That's way back at the beginning, Pierre. Is that right?
Yeah, it was the very first anthology. Yes.
Oh,
2013.
So having been through this long process, what's been your favorite aspect of the competition each year?
Well, it's the to see how excited the winners are when we were able to have parties or events, not virtual events, but to be all together and see the reactions of the winners and the finalists. That's been a lot of fun.
So I've only been involved with the past couple of years, and we've always had the program there at your store on 28th Street, and that must be wonderful to have that crowd of people back, and hopefully we'll be able to get back to that.
Hopefully very soon, next year, hopefully.
So can you tell us a little bit more about Chapbook Press? What does an author need to do to be published on Chapbook?
So in 2009, Schuler Books acquired an espresso book machine. So that's the machine you saw on the video. It's basically two printers that are hooked to a machine that will bind and trim the book at the right size. And so we created a Chapbook Press to help people self-publish. And we can offer ISBNs, barcodes, the Library of Congress control number, and we can distribute the book and as a paperback, as an ebook also.
And
so
then what
people self-publish their book.
Oh, great. And then what type of quantities? I mean, can somebody just do a one-off book?
Yes, from one book to as many as they want. You saw the machine, how the machine works, and it's one at a time. So it can be a little bit slow sometimes, but the advantage is that people don't have to stock on inventory as they used to have to a long time ago. But now we print them as needed. That's the print-on-demand definition, basically.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's exciting. And again, we're very grateful for the partnership with Schuler Books in this program.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Pierre. So before getting to our guest today, we want to encourage you to show support for your favorite Right Michigan writer. And you can do that by making comments on social media. The streaming that you're watching on, either on Facebook or YouTube, just use the comments feature, give a shout out, and we'll display those on screen throughout the rest of the event. We also want to thank the volunteer reviewers who have narrowed nearly 1,000 entries to the semifinalists. I happen to be one of those many volunteers. I think there were a couple hundred in total. It's a great experience to read these stories as they're submitted. In the process, we are also providing feedback to the writers. So that's really wonderful that we're able to give some feedback to the writers, and I hope it's very helpful, constructive feedback for them as well. So about the volunteer reviewers. Well, I just told you about the volunteer reviewers. Okay, so the judges. Well, I also want to thank our judges. Ultimately, we cull down the list from 1,000 entries to a much smaller number that the judges can review for final selection for the anthology. And the judges this year included Deborah Deason, Shelley Irwin, Dan Johnson, Michelle Castanek, Ramon Peralta, Deborah Reed, Gloria Trejo, Anya Van Drunen, and Ramona Wilkie. The Right Michigan Planning Committee plans the annual event, and this is where a lot of work goes on, and we're very grateful for what they do. And this team includes Pierre Camy, who you just met, Diane Cutler, Julia Hawkins, Kip Odell, Sarah Proano, David Specht, Remington Steed, and Katie Zeidema. Thank you, everybody. They've really been instrumental in helping to grow this short story competition across the state, and thank you. So, Right Michigan receives entries from across the state, and we have a new partner in the Upper Peninsula to help promote the contest and provide reviewers, and that is the Hancock School Public Library. Dillon Geshel, the library director, joins us to talk about writing in the Upper Peninsula. Welcome, Dillon.
Hey, Randy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So this is your first year kind of promoting it? How has that gone?
Yeah, this is our first year being involved. It's been really exciting for us to sort of work on engaging all the other libraries here in the UP, just to let them know there's this great statewide writing contest that you can make available to your students. So we've had a lot of fun with that. It's been really helpful as we try and think of new programs or resources that we can make available to these kids that don't necessarily involve in-person gatherings and things like that. So Write Michigan was, really a great option for us as we were trying to find some creative new outlets for the students to express themselves. And, the fact that it comes with some fun prizes and potentially cash prizes, I think was really exciting for them too.
Have you seen any particular age group being more interested in this, or is it all ages?
Yeah, we've kind of seen it all ages. I can say, with our library in Hancock, most of the students we see in there are middle school or high school age kids. So seeing them excited about it was really neat for us, because those are students who are in there every day looking for something fun to do.
Great. And for the benefit of people who may not know where Hancock is.
Sure. Yeah, so Hancock and our library in Hancock is just about as far north as you can get in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. We're way up in the Keweenaw Peninsula here near Houghton, the Houghton area. So that was another element of why we wanted to participate, right? There was this exciting writing program that's been happening for several years in Lower Michigan, and we thought we could really maybe help get some students involved who might not otherwise hear about it.
Well, that's fantastic. So is the ice off the water yet, or is it still a little bit
The
chunky?
ice is off the canal here. We've still got some on Lake Superior though.
Great. And what are you reading these days, Dillon?
Sure. Right now I'm reading a Tim Johnston book. It's called Descent. It's not a new book. I'm kind of catching up on some books from my to read list. It's a literary thriller from 2015, I think. Story of a missing girl that's exciting and thrilling, but also has this sort of poetic language to it that I'm really liking.
Wow, very cool. Thank you. Well, thanks again for joining us today, and we especially thank you for being part of the Write Michigan short story competition. We're looking forward to next year as well.
Me too. Thanks, Randy.
Thank you. So now to celebrate the 2020 Write Michigan Short Story Contest, here are last year's winners. Congratulations to each and every one of 2020's winners. That's an impressive list, and we're very proud of you. Now I want to introduce our first speaker, Peter Hoe Davies. Peter Hoe Davies' latest book is A Lie Someone Told You About Yourself. His previous novel, The Fortunes, a New York Times notable book, won the Anisfeld-Wolf Award and the Chautauqua Prize, and was the finalist for the Dayton Literary Peace Prize. His first novel, The Welsh Girl, a London Times bestseller, was longlisted for the Booker Prize. He has also published 2 short story collections, The Ugliest House in the World and Equal Love. Davies is the recipient of fellowships from the Guggenheim Foundation and the National Endowment for the Arts, and a winner of the Penn Malamud and Penn Macmillan Awards. Born in Britain to Welsh and Chinese parents, he now makes his home in the United States. He has taught at the University of Oregon, Northwestern, and Emory University, and he's currently on the faculty at the University of Michigan. Welcome, Peter. Oh, you were muted. Sorry.
Oh. Is that working now? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Fantastic. Good to be with you all. So, it's now a year since I was supposed to be gathering with everybody in person at Schuler's in Grand Rapids to celebrate the 2020 edition of Michigan Writes, and a little longer since I wrote my introduction to that volume, which I will display for everybody up there on the screen. One of the ways I think writers often talk about good writing is in terms of whether it lasts, whether it speaks to us across time. And so I thought it might be interesting as a kind of trivial test of that idea to revisit a little of what I wrote for my introduction a year ago, according to the calendar, I guess, but also what feels like about an eon ago in those distant before times, to see how it holds up and how it might speak to us to get today on the, a year into our sort of pandemic existence now. My brief back then a year ago from the wonderful Diane Cutler at the Kent District Library was to offer some words to inspire new writers. But as you'll see, I was wrestling a little bit with that idea of inspiration. So this is a little bit from the introduction. The truth is, and I felt this at assorted award ceremonies or when judging prizes myself, that the folks I think of most in these contexts are not the winners, but those other people, the ones who even now I hesitate to call the losers. They're the ones who need inspiration and motivation as much as prizes encourage winners. At the back of my mind, I always have the nagging sense that they also discourage others. This feeling isn't pity so much as empathy. The truth is that I see myself in the losers. I identify with them. I used to think this was some personal pathology, but as the years have gone by, I've learned from others that it's a more general phenomenon amongst writers. Put simply, most and maybe all writers I know, myself very much included, are losers. Lovable losers, serial losers, sore losers. We write stories and they often suck. We send out our work to publishers or agents or magazines, and it nearly always gets rejected. We submit to competitions and almost invariably lose. The life of a writer inevitably comprises much more losing than winning, even if only our winning, the work that sees print, ends up being visible to readers. Now, this I realize may be kind of an odd and even confounding thing to say by way of introduction to an anthology of prize-winning stories. But one reason we celebrate moments like these, stories like these, is that winning isn't normal. Winning is the exception. And just to be clear, the distinction I'm making here isn't between the 24 winners chosen for this volume and the thousands or more losers who weren't. What I'm suggesting is that to be a writer is to be a loser. And what we're celebrating in this collection are those rare, wonderful moments of winning in a writerly existence that's mostly losing. These stories are to be cherished because even these writers, these brilliant and deserving winners, are themselves, most of the time, like most writers, losers. I say all of this, of course, partly for the sake of those readers of this book who may themselves be writers, who may themselves have submitted work for this very volume. Too often, rejection makes us feel that we can't be writers, when in fact, rejection, failure, is what qualifies you to join the club, is what all writers have in common. The only other thing every successful writer I know has in common, in fact, is that they were rejected over and over, told no or sorry or by editors and agents and teachers and judges, and they kept on writing anyway. But I say all this too for the sake of the winners in this book, not to bum them out or bring them down, but to explain why winning for a writer can feel a little weird, I think. We're not used to it, after all. There are a lot of reasons for this. Writers are often shy by nature, not all that comfortable in the spotlight. But one particular form the weirdness can take is a flare-up of imposter syndrome, that feeling of, who, me? The first time I won a writing prize myself, actually, I had to call the judges back a few minutes later just to be sure I hadn't misunderstood them. The source of this lies, I think, in the fact that writing is often a business of long delayed gratification. It takes a while to write a story and revise it, a while longer to send it out, longer still to hear back from an editor or a judge, and yet longer to see it in print. So long, in fact, that sometimes the writer who wins an award, who gets celebrated, can feel like a past self. Some of the winning writers in this book may have already begun to intuit this. If they're anything like me, the lovely news of success made them feel brilliant, made their writing come easily for maybe 48 hours, after which they realized showing up at the desktop was just as hard as ever, and they began to fear that the writer who won the prize wasn't them at all, but some younger, more talented, maybe even more better-looking version of themselves. It's not always easy to compete with that successful past self, to live up to their standards. They won an award, after all, which is why winning can even feel like a burden at times. And I should know. I wrote the first story I published when I was 18, but didn't see it in print until I was 21, and didn't publish another one until I was 26. For 5 long years, I tried to compete with my younger self. Mistake number 1, I was trying to write the same story again. Mistake number 2, I forgot that the first draft of a new story inevitably sucks compared to the final draft of an old story, especially a published one. Mistake number 3, I forgot that writers were losers, and when I remembered that, I was able to relax and write again. What I mean to say is that being a loser is a good thing for a writer, a gift, and one I wouldn't want to take away from the writers in these pages. And in case you or they aren't yet persuaded, here are a few more reasons. We lose much more often than we win because telling stories is hard, but that's why it's worth doing, and also how you know you're doing it right, because telling hard stories is what we signed up for. We're losers because it's often our job to tell the stories of life and society's losers, the outcast and the overlooked, the marginalized and the maligned, people without voice, people down on their luck. Losers have nothing to lose, which means we can take chances with our stories, take risks with our writing, which is to say be creative, original, and mold-breaking. And finally, losers have something to prove, which is why they keep writing after all. That introduction goes on a little longer, but I'll pause there. You can make up your own minds about how it stood the test of time and the test of our times. But a year on from writing it, I guess that idea of writing as a business of long, delayed gratification might resonate for many of us. We've all just lived through a year of delayed gratification, waiting to see friends and family again, to travel, to eat out, to go see a movie, even to go back into the classroom. If we're lucky, that's been the worst of it. But of course, for many, it's also been a year of loss time, of lost jobs, of lost loved ones. One small thing that sustained me in these dark times, and others too, I think, has been reading and writing. Sales of books, despite the fact that stores have been closed, have risen in many cases. My writing students have been unusually creative and productive in these lockdown times. Of course, reading and writing don't replace our many losses, but they do maybe give us some comfort and companionship in the midst of them, and maybe even a new purpose. We keep writing, in many cases, not to win, but to remember what we've lost.
Thank you, Peter. That was a wonderful one. Thank you for sharing that. Very, very heartfelt. I really feel the same thing too. And a lot of the writers and creatives I know have had that same pent up, creative force coming out of them over the past year. There's a lot of prolific work coming out, and I'm really excited about what we're going to read and hear in the coming months and years, because there's a tremendous amount of amazing expression just starting to come out. How has this pandemic, this past year, affected you as a writer? Is it something that has freed up more space, or has it become an inspiration of sorts?
It has, I've been very grateful for writing in this period because it has given me some direction and purpose and structure, I think, in these strange times that we've been living through. I was lucky I had a couple of books that had been drafted, so I was able to just keep working on them through much of the lockdown period. And that did sort of shape my days in ways that was very welcome. The way that I think, or the thing that I've noticed most that's been very exciting to me is the feeling of, despite teaching on Zoom, of coming together with students. I really enjoyed my teaching over this last year. I actually had a lot of my graduate students come to socially distanced backyard office hours all through last summer, and that was a great pleasure for me and I hope for them. It almost felt like they were doing me the favor of bringing me some company. But I think it's brought me closer to classes. I don't think I've ever had students be as grateful for being in a classroom in this last year than I've had in the past, and that's been encouraging to me and heartening to me as well, I would say.
Oh, wonderful. And what are you reading currently?
Well, I'm going to plug a few things. This is one that's out right now. This is a book by Edward Carey called The Swallowed Man. I was mentioning earlier that it's a retelling of the Pinocchio story from the point of view of Pinocchio's father of sorts, Geppetto, who's the guy who carves him while he's trapped in the whale. It's a fascinating and very fun book, actually, I should say, very touching as well. And then a couple of things that are actually coming down the pike that I'm in the middle of at the moment. This is a book by a wonderful young writer, a former colleague of mine called Kirsten Valdez-Quaid. Her very first novel is coming out in April called The 5 Wounds, which is fantastic. And then one by a former student that'll come out, I think, later on in the summer, called The Radiant Fugitives by Nawaz Ahmed, which is also a fantastic new book that I'd encourage people to look out for when it shows up in a few months' time.
Wow, that's great suggestions. Thank you. And again, thank you for coming back. We wish we could have done this last year as we had planned, but we're grateful that you could come back and join us this year, and especially appreciate your words of advice for all the young writers around the state. Thank you, Peter.
My pleasure. Congratulations to all the winners. Thanks, Randy.
Thank you. Next up is our award announcements for adult and teen categories. After that, we'll hear from our keynote speaker, Susie Finkbiner, and then we'll wrap up with the award announcements with the youth and Spanish language youth categories. Winners, know that your prize, your certificate, and copy of the anthology are on the way. You can look for those shortly. And remember, keep commenting. I love seeing the comments that are popping up and words of congratulations to the winners. Keep that coming. Just do that by commenting in the Facebook or YouTube comment section. So now for the first set of awards, the adult category. Our Judge's Choice winner in the adult category is Karen Mcphee with Forever Things. In her story, she tells, for all the right reasons, Carrie Sims has decided to resign her teaching position in an inner city elementary school. When fate, with a little help from its friends, intervenes, Carrie comes face to face with the only reason that matters, forever things. Congratulations, Carrie. Our Judge's runner-up winner is Leanne Straubniks with Dahlia. Dahlia is attending her senior prom, but she has a secret. It's a secret she has not shown anyone but her friend until now. Her crush since 7th grade, Alex, asks her to dance, and the evening takes an unexpected turn. Our Reader's Choice winner is Benson Brazier. Dark Lord sounds a bit harsh, don't you think? A twist on the classic tale of the Dark Lord and the Dark Tower. The Dark Lord struggles to complete his work despite being constantly interrupted by would-be heroes who sneak in to destroy him. Congratulations, Benson. The published finalists are Bailey Burke, Tree Rings. Delaney, a young girl dealing with the loss of her best friend, Henry, watches and rides the waves of memory, and a beloved crabapple tree is cut down. The tree and Henry have ceased to grow, but she cannot escape the ways that she is changing. Congratulations, Bailey. E.F. Coyne, Dance With Me. Just an ordinary job interview. Nothing to see here. Move along. Congratulations, E.F. Ariella Hillary with Strawberry Jam. Reminiscent of childhood between sisters over a shared love of homemade strawberry jam. Congratulations, Ariella. Now our teen awards. Our Judge's Choice winner in the teen category is Lonnie Koo with Multitudes of Blue. A young girl explores a newfound womanhood while navigating the effects of a broken family, but the past offers a striking similarity. Multitudes of Blue dives into a warped adolescent perception of love and the world. Congratulations. Our Judge's Choice our Judge's Choice runner-up is Abigail Kloa with Edwin Memory Drive Loaded. Edwin, the caretaker unit in, I'm not going to pronounce this right, Okalix, struggles with his glitches and when children under his care are in danger. Congratulations, Abigail. Our Reader's Choice winner is Hannah Haynes with Remember. Music has long been a comfort of Mary's, but now she is supposed to listen to Ms. Ella Fitzgerald with a stranger breaking into her home. Congratulations, Hannah. The published finalists are Kate Zalepi Bull with The Body in the Creek. Our narrator, Jamie, recounts a traumatic event from his childhood concerning something that took on the appearance of his friend. Congratulations, Kate. Grace Jacobson, The Littlest Chickadee. Luna and her grandfather had quite a lot in common, but one thing they held dearest to them was watching birds together, more specifically chickadees. Now that Luna's grandfather is gone, she struggles to move on, and her grandfather said, "Spread her wings and fly, but maybe a little chickadee can help her." Congratulations, Grace. Kavina Clear with Glass Slippers. A girl named Ella is searching for her father who is imprisoned in a castle dungeon. Congratulations, Kavina. And congratulations again to all of those winners. So at this point, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Susie Finkbiner. Susie is the CBA best-selling author of All Manner of Things, which was selected as a 2020 Michigan Notable Book, and Stories That Bind Us, as well as A Cup of Dust, A Trail of Crumbs, and A Song of Home. Her next novel, The Nature of Small Birds, releases this July. She serves on the Fiction Readers Summit Planning Committee, volunteers her time at Ada Bible Church in Grand Rapids, and she speaks at retreats and women's events across the country. Susie and her husband have 3 children and live in West Michigan. And welcome to the program, Susie.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here. There was a time when I wasn't a woman who feeds birds. In those days, before I knew what suet and Niger seeds were, I hardly ever thought of the birds in my neighborhood. Sure, occasionally I saw a big bird flying through the sky or heard a bunch of weird speckled birds swarming the lawn. But for the most part, I went on with my life like a normal, non-bird feeding individual. And then one day, on my way to the cat food aisle at the grocery store, I wandered into the wild birds section. Why not, I thought, and picked out a green plastic feeder, the cheapest on the shelf, and a 5-pound bag of seed. Once home, I hung my offering from a thick limb of our crimson maple. For days, I watched eagerly, hoping for befeathered diners to visit. Imagine my pout when none came. Not a single one. Turning to Google, as one does, I discovered the rule of 2. Essentially, this rule informs that it could take 2 seconds, 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks, or 2 months for birds to make an appearance at a new feeder. Well, at least they didn't say the birds would never come. I hungered down and kept my eyes open. My first bird, at least that I saw, was a sparrow. I'm certain that no other sparrow in the history of bird watching was ever as celebrated as that one. "You came!" I yelled, startling the birdie and sending it to flight. Not to worry, my shouting did little to keep the birds away that day. They came steadily, and I tried to identify them as best as I could. The sparrows I knew, and the robins. Any Michigander worth her salt knows a robin when she sees it. A noisy blue jay squawked when he arrived, followed by a cardinal pair who made a much quieter entrance. These are my bird friends, I thought, and they eat a lot. After a few days, I peeked out and found a different kind of avian in the tree. It was blue and white and black and absolutely adorable, like nothing I'd ever seen before. Then a black and white striped jittery little guy, then a rather Rubenesque trio. Next, one with silvery gray coloration and punk rock mohawk. Who are these guys? I wondered aloud, and what do they like to eat? Did you know that there is an app that helps you identify birds? There is. Of course, there's an app for everything these days, but I digress. I identified the nuthatch and downy woodpecker, the mourning doves, and the tufted titmouse. As new birds came, I learned their names and kept that feeder full. Eventually, I branched out, offering thistle to try to attract a charm of goldfinches, suet cake to lure in woodpeckers, black oil sunflower seeds to appeal to chickadees and grackles. I even put out mealworms, which made me cringe the whole time. Some of it the birds liked. Some of it they didn't, nudging it out of the way so they could reach the good stuff. All of it, however, was to the liking of the neighborhood squirrels. All of it they would steal, even full suet cakes. If you've never had the pleasure of watching a squirrel bolt across the street with a full suet cake in its mouth, let me tell you, you're missing out. Also, not to be missed is me dashing out the front door to chase away Buttons, the murderous neighborhood cat, so he doesn't eat my house finches. It is indeed a sight to see. Another digression, I apologize. Over the years, I've eased into the rhythm of being a bird nerd. I no longer buy seed in 5-pound bags, but in much heavier quantities. I keep an eye open for orioles and hummingbirds in the summer, juncos and Cooper's hawks when the weather turns colder. I might talk to the nuthatch, who no longer flies away when I come outside, and I always answer the blue jay when he hollers to let me know the feeder is empty. I've learned to offer what I have and to delight in the birds that come. It's not all that different from what we as writers come to learn over time. One day, we get an itch of an idea and think to ourselves, why not? We grab our paper and pen or power up the laptop and write a sentence, then another and another. Some of that first try is good. Some of it a little rough, but that's all right. We're trying something new, and that takes a lot of courage. We write, edit, revise, repeat. After a while, we offer what we've written, hoping someone will come along to read it. It might take 2 days, weeks, months, years, or even more before an eager reader finds our poem, story, essay, memoir. But when they do, it is so exciting, nerve-wracking, but mostly exciting. "You came," we yell, then proceed to bite our nails to the quick. We give what we can, we writers do. It is for someone. At first, that someone might be our best friend from first grade or an especially inspiring teacher. It might even be our mom, but a reader is a reader. And a writer is a writer. We just can't help ourselves. While we wait for more readers to come, we keep tapping away at the keyboard or scribbling in our notebook. We try new things and stretch our writing muscles. Eventually, we come to realize that while writing is cathartic for ourselves, it is also a gift to those who read it, a gift that nurtures, inspires, impacts, and nourishes. We fill the world with words that speak of what it is to be human, to love, to despair, to suffer, and to hope. Today, it is my honor to celebrate with you, writers from every knuckle and fingertip of our beautiful state. What a day to be a Michigan writer. We join an ever-growing list of Michiganders who use their words to impact the world, from Christopher Paul Curtis to Rachel Den Hollander, Arthur Miller to Patricia Polacco, Terry McMillan to Gary D. Schmidt, Edna Ferber to each of you. We are doing our state proud when we write. To those whose stories didn't end up on the list of winners today, I beg of you not to give up. There are readers for you, readers who need what only you can write. To the authors we celebrate here this afternoon, hearty and loud congratulations. I sincerely hope that the first thing you do when you receive your copy of the Write Michigan anthology is to flip through until you find your story. There's nothing like that moment, seeing what you've written in print for the first time. Relish it. Never let it get old. It's as close to magic as we get in this writing life. And to the readers, we hope you enjoy the feast of beautiful words you'll find among the winning entries. Far better fare than anything set out for birds. It is, in fact, the best we can offer. What a delight to share it with you.
Thank you, Susie. Appreciate you sharing your words and your advice.
Thank you.
What was your first publishing experience like? Your first story?
My first publishing experience was as a playwright. And it was shocking when they accepted my piece.
Why?
You know, as Peter said earlier, we get used to losing. And so when we have that win, when we have someone that finds merit in what we write, it can be surprising. And still now, after nearly 15 years as a professional author, I still find it shocking.
Well, that's wonderful. So The Nature of Small Birds is coming out in July. Can you tell us a little bit more about your new book?
Oh, I'm so excited about this one. It is actually a story about the events surrounding the very last days of the United States involvement in the Vietnam conflict. And so it is about Operation Baby Lift, which was the airlifting of 3,000 Vietnamese children to be adopted in the United States, Canada, and Australia. And it tells the story of one of those families that adopted a little girl. And it tells the story in 1975, 1988, and 2013.
That sounds fantastic. We can't wait to get our hands on that. And what are you reading currently, Susie?
Well, you know, I always am reading several. So I've got Kindred by Octavia Butler, which I checked out from my local KDL. This book is just such an innovative telling of history by Butler. It's my first of her books and will absolutely not be my last. It is so well written. It's a classic and I highly recommend it. I also have a book that is not coming out, or isn't coming out until July. It's called The Weight of Memory by Sean Smucker. And it is a man in his late 50s finds out that he is dying. He has days or months left. And he's talking to his granddaughter, and it's his story and her story, and it's beautiful. And then one of my favorite books, which I have read several times, is Everything Sad is Untrue by Daniel Nehri. It actually, I bought this before it won the Prince Award, so it doesn't have the seal, but it's actually a memoir, and it is told by a young man who was a refugee from Iran, and moving to Oklahoma. It is one of the most beautiful books I've ever read in my entire life, and I absolutely cannot recommend this one enough.
Fantastic. A lot of great recommendations there. And I have one burning question. Mealworms, dry or like live?
Oh, dry. They were bad enough dry. The thought of having them live, and no, thank you. And you know what? The birds didn't enjoy them as much as I thought they would. So I'm done with that.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, again, we thank you for joining us, Susie. We appreciate the words of advice and your inspiration for the authors. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So before we get to the last set of awards, we want to acknowledge a great new partnership and award. In the spirit of encouraging readers and writing among young people, KDL is partnering with Michigan author Jonathan Rand to offer a scholarship at his writing camp, Author Quest. Who better to help you learn how to write better than the man who brought us the popular Michigan Chillers or Michigan Chiller series? The winner of Author Quest scholarship is Lillian Steelstraw. Congratulations, Lillian. Author Quest will take place in 2022, and Mr. Rand is saving a special seat just for you, Lillian Steelstra. Congratulations. All right, so next up in our award announcements are the youth and Spanish language youth categories. Winners, just as a reminder, know that your prize, your certificate, and the copy of the anthology will be on the way shortly, so look for that shortly. And also remember, you can buy additional copies of the anthology through Schuler Books on their website or by visiting their store. And one thing I noticed on the website, if you're interested in previous anthologies, I think they have all of them. So you can order them online or in the store. So first, the youth category. Our judge's choice winner in the youth category is Emerson Gerard with Adventures in Fairyland. Two kids discover a magical world outside of their town. Everything is amazing and perfect until someone vicious, unpleasant, and evil strikes. Congratulations, Emerson. Our judge's choice runner-up is Lillian Steelstra with Star's Journey. The story is about a horse named Star who learns his true value. His life has been rough, but he's a fighter. He learns how to find beauty in heartache. Congratulations, Lillian. Our Reader's Choice winner is Zach Zupin with Who Knows Where the Railroad Goes. Join a train on the railroad through a fun journey. Explore cool places with the train as it passes by on the railroad, but who knows where the railroad goes? Congratulations, Zach. The published finalists are Shelley Ouyang with All for a Placement. Jaden is forced to go for a swim meet against his will, and all sorts of things start to go downhill. Congratulations. Andrew Wright with The Stones. Michael loses his father's kingdom and strives to regain it. Ellie Hardy with Space Cat. Callie the cat takes an exciting journey to space. Congratulations, Ellie. Now for the Spanish language youth category. Our judge's choice winner is Xavier Irizarry with The Position. It is a story about a boy who is fighting for his position as a goalkeeper on his soccer team. Congratulations, Xavier. Our judge's choice winner is Lucio Gunkel with Toby and Stanley, Extraordinary Dogs. This is the story of two extraordinary dogs, their short life in an orphanage, and unexpected new friend. Congratulations, Lucio. Our Reader's Choice winner is Kalyn Hamilton with Spy Catalina. My story is how a girl has this dream, and where she is a spy and all of her classmates think her dream is a joke. What do you think will happen next? On to the published finalists. Anya Phillips with Princess of the Sea. A mermaid's princess sister becomes a queen. The princess is queen of the garden for a little while until she meets a new magic friend. Congratulations, Anya. Olivia Snackenberg with History Against History. Some children lived in an elegant house, but there was an accidental fire. They're not poor, and there is a writing competition. What will happen? Will they win or not? Congratulations, Olivia. Harper Davis with Mr. Jose. Mr. Marquez is telling the students that witches are real. Jose, one of the witches, is going to become the boss when a bad witch comes and ruins everything. Jose and some witches hide in a school. Congratulations. And congratulations to all of the 2021 Write Michigan Short Story Contest winners. Wherever you are, let's give them a round of applause. Yay. All right. So on behalf of Kent District Library and Schuler Books, thank you for helping us to celebrate this incredible talent, all this talent that Michigan has to offer, by coming to the Write Michigan Awards ceremony. Thank you again to Peter Hoe Davies, Susie Finkbiner, and thank you to our sponsors at Kent District Library, Meyer, Schuler Books, and also thanks to our new library partner, Hancock School Public Library. The 2021 anthology is for sale at Schuler Books now, and we're proud to work with Chapbook Press. If you have any questions, or if you're interested in having a book printed at Schuler Books, make sure you connect with Pierre at schulerbooks.com or by visiting their store. Again, thank you, and congratulations to all of the winners. Have a wonderful, wonderful Saturday afternoon.